Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Miller. I'm the Director of Admissions at Berkeley Hall School, and I want to welcome you to the Los Angeles Independent School Admissions webinar. Um, Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm the Director of Admissions at Berkeley Hall School. We're a nursery through 8th grade independent school in Los Angeles. I've been working personally in admissions for 16 years and love meeting children and their parents. I also am a mom of 4 kids who all attended independent schools at some point in their education. And they are the people they are today because they attended independent schools. The Los Angeles Independent School is a consortium of 59 strong schools in the Los Angeles area. This webinar is being recorded. The recording will be available on the LAIS website at losangelesindependentschools.org, where you registered for this webinar. Our presenters are all directors of admissions at 3 different independent schools. My co-presenters will now introduce themselves. Brad, you're first.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining tonight. My name is Brad Berry. I'm the Director of Admission at Merman School, which is a K through 8th grade school. And I started out in independent schools as a teacher, which I think was 13 years ago. And I've really loved it because independent schools can be schools that aren't one size fits all, but can really hone in and give kids a really specialized education. And then I'll pass it over to Nancy.
Hi, everyone. I too want to welcome you this evening. I am the Director of Admission at Oakwood School. We are a K through 12 school located on 2 different campuses. And I too have children who have gone through the independent school system and are long graduated. And we just want to share with you what we feel are the benefits and the highlights of an independent school education. So thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm going to share my screen now, and because we have a few slides. So just 1 minute, please. Okay. So we're going to go over, we just introduced ourselves. We're going to go over what is an independent school, why choose an independent school, how to afford an independent school education, and then we'll talk a little bit about the roadmap and what to do next if you're interested. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A, and there is on the webinar a Q&A button on your window, and whatever questions you may have, please feel free to put them there, and we'll answer them during the Q&A session. So Nancy will start us off with what is independent school. Nancy.
Okay, so when we look at the slide before you that talks on the first line just about public, charter, and magnet, those 3 schools are all part of the public school system, if you will. Your public school is the place in your neighborhood where all you need to do is prove your address and you're able to sign your child up at the public school. The charter school and the magnet school are a little bit different. The charter school has a performance funded kind of process, and you do need to make an application, but there is no fee. And many of those schools are very parent involved kinds of communities. The magnet schools usually have a specific program associated with them. So you might see a science magnet or a performance magnet. And again, those are specialty schools and specialty programs, places that you do need to apply, but there are not tuition fees that are associated with them. And so now we come to private and independent. And sometimes people tend to kind of use those as interchangeable ways of speaking about schools that are outside the public sector. Private schools, in fact, are schools that are for profit. So that means that their tuition is something that is run more like a business, and they don't tend to have a board of trustees, but they do have ownership. And so they too can have an application process and certainly a tuition. And now we come to the independent schools. And as Nathalie mentioned, in our consortium of schools, there are 59 independent schools in this general geographic vicinity. And independent schools are non-profit. So there is all the money that comes in from tuition is put right back into running the school and making it that wonderful spot where children and families can call home. There is an application process which differs from school to school. And then there are some ways in which we operate as independent schools in doing things on a calendar. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the evening. Independent schools have a board of trustees. And so those are usually parents that are involved or members of the community that are responsible for the health and well-being of the institution. So we, all coming from independent schools, hope that as you get to know us a little bit better, this will be the direction that you'll like to go. Every independent school has either a mission or, and it can have both, a philosophy. And that is what drives the school. That's what the school really recognizes as kind of, the way in which all decisions are made so that it comes back to who they are as a school and what they believe in, what their values, what their goals, what their priorities are in terms of educating your children. So in every sense of the word, we are looking for that opportunity to essentially encourage you to be part of the independent school lifestyle, if you will. We have the freedom in independent schools to be able to choose how teaching and learning happens, to think about strategically where we're going as an institution. And so a lot of that kind of opportunity gives each school its own presence, its own culture, and its own personality, if you will. So I'm going to turn it right back to Nathalie.
Actually, Brad is going to take it over right now
Oh,
because he's going
sorry.
to talk about why choosing an independent school.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think that's probably a question that a lot of you are here to think about tonight. And as Nancy just laid out, independent schools have their own missions. They have the ability and resources really to think about more than just education. And so all of the schools in our consortium, I'm sure, would say that they're not just focused on academic growth, although that's why we have schools, but also they're focused on personal growth. And so you'll see as you learn about schools, things like core values that are instilled in the students, character traits that that schools try to build in students. In religious schools, you might see, instilling a religious identity or community affiliation there. But with every school, the educational program is going to incorporate that social emotional well-being that we all know is so important to raising kids. The other thing about an independent school is that they are selective in how they build their student body, and that's something that schools care a lot about. And so in an independent school, there's going to be exposure to a diverse student body, a diverse faculty, and I think with all of our schools, a real commitment to equal opportunities and really a culture of inclusion in our schools. And because of the structure of independent schools, you're going to see generally smaller class sizes. You're going to see programs that are tailored to kids' individual abilities and strength. You're going to see more time dedicated to nurturing that student-teacher relationship as well as parent-teacher relationships. And you're going to find teachers that really know each kid and have the time and resources to develop professionally and grow as educators and bring new ideas back to the classroom. And as I mentioned about the selective process, our jobs as admission directors are really about building cohesive communities. That means you're not just choosing a school when you look at an independent school, but you're also choosing a community for you and your child. And in that community, you'll find like-minded families and students with the same passions and goals. And some of our schools cater to special interests, special abilities, special populations. And I think the great thing about having those 59 schools in our community that Nancy mentioned is that you can really find a school that's going to be suited for your child and your family. And I think, as I said earlier, that's the thing I love about independent schools. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. You'll really be able to find a school that focuses in on what you're looking for your child to develop.
That's great. So once you choose independent school, they are expensive. There's no doubt about it. So how do you afford them? So first of all, explore your options. Applying for independent schools may be intimidating, but our schools value socioeconomic diversity, and they have the resources to support families. So don't let price keep you from exploring the schools. Go visit, go tour the campuses, look at the websites. The Los Angeles Independent Schools.org website is a great place where you can find all the schools that are part of the consortium, and there's direct links to each school's website, and it's a great place to start. In terms of most independent school offer a fee waiver to submit an online application. So if you're going to be applying for financial aid, do call the admissions office and ask for the fee waiver so you don't have to pay the application fee. So what is financial aid? Financial aid is based on families' needs. Independent schools usually don't offer special scholarships that are merit-based. Financial aid is not a loan. It's a grant that does not need to be repaid. And basically what the grant does is it reduces the tuition that parents need to pay in order to have their children attend the independent schools. What does financial aid typically cover and what does it mean? It depends on the individual school, but usually financial aid discounts the following. It discounts the tuition. It discounts the fees. Sometimes there are fees for technology, like computers, or there's fees for outdoor education trips or other things like that. Depending on the school, additional costs such as uniforms and sports fees and bus transportation for those who have a bus program, field trips, outdoor education trips, etc., may be discounted as well for financial aid families. Each school has a very similar process, and they may be a little bit different, but they basically all use an online clearinghouse to collect financial aid information from the families. For example, a lot of the schools in the area use a website called SSS, which is School and Student Services. Others use TADS or FAST or FACS or Clarity, but basically they all do the same thing. You, as a parent, once you've applied to independent school just for your child to get in, at the same time you would be applying for the financial aid. And so you would go on the website of the independent school where you're applying, and then you'd find out how to apply and which software they're using, and you click on the links and you follow all the deadlines, and the financial aid request on all those softwares, basically the questions are the same. What is your income? What assets do you have? How many people live in your family? What do you think your income will be next year? And it's not that hard to fill this out as long as you have last year's tax returns so that you can plug in numbers easily. A lot of the schools also require additional documentation, such as your tax returns, your W-2s, your 1099s, if you are an independent contractor. Most schools are need aware versus need blind, meaning that the schools that are need aware, the admissions committee knows which parents are applying for financial aid. A lot of the schools in our consortium are need blind, meaning that the people making the decision to accept or not accept a child does not know whether that family is applying for financial aid. And for the most part, all the schools keep the financial aid process totally confidential, which means that if you do enroll your child in the independent school and you're a financial aid family, meaning that you've been granted enough money so that you can afford to send your child there, the teachers will not know that your child is on financial aid. The other families will not know. There'll be maybe 3 or 4 people at the school who know because they're the ones who do the billing or sit on the financial aid committee, but it will not be the faculty, it will not be the other parents, will not be the other children. The admissions decisions from all the independent schools, we release them at the same time as it will include the financial aid decisions at the same time, which is great, so that you'll be able to see if you're applying to 3 to 4 schools, let's say, you'll be able to see which school is offering what. And the schools, even though we're all looking at the same numbers, because they have different budgets or different opportunities and so on and so forth, they may not be the exact same offer in terms of what the grants may be. We did hold, the LAIS did have a fantastic webinar on November 11th with a consultant whose name is Alyssa Evans. She has been working in the financial aid world, first with NAIS, which is a National Association of Independent Schools, which is a 3,500 school member organization that is national. She worked for the financial aid arm of NAIS for many, many years, and now she's a consultant for many, many schools. And she gave a fabulous webinar in November, and that is recorded and it's available on our website at lais.org. And I believe that our tech person, Hadley, actually put the link in the chat. So if you're interested in applying for financial aid, please feel free. Don't ever think that because you make X amount of money that you will not be granted financial aid. You will not know if you're granted financial aid unless you apply. So we always encourage people to go through the financial aid process if you think that you need help with handling tuition payments. Our schools all have beautiful campuses, small class sizes, great programs. And we, as Brad said, we really do look at the whole child, and we educate children, not just academically, but artistically, athletically, and also with character. And so it's totally worth to apply to financial aid. To be honest with you, I have 4 kids, and all 4 went to independent school, and all 4 received some form of financial aid, because there's no way my husband and I would have been able to fund 4 independent school tuition at the same time. So I highly recommend it. It was totally worth it for my family. Brad, you're next.
Great. Yeah. So, there's kind of a general, I think the title of this was Roadmap to Independent Schools. And there's kind of a general roadmap to getting to know a school and applying and getting all the way through being accepted and joining a school community. And, the first stage of that is exploration. I'll plug the LAIS website. I would start there. There's a wonderful resource there where you can filter schools based on what grade levels they offer, where they're located, and kind of start to see what kinds of schools are out there. And I'd encourage you to have an open mind, explore all different kinds of schools, and kind of get to know them. And from that LAIS website, you can use, each school has a direct link to their individual website, and so you can dive a little deeper and start to explore the schools that way. And LA is great because there are schools that serve students with special needs. There are schools that serve gifted kids. There are schools that have very traditional education models, schools that are very progressive. But as you look at these, which you can, on any school's website, usually there's a mission or kind of a philosophy. You'll start to be able to narrow down what it is you're looking for and what you feel like might make sense for your kid. And then at that point, you can start asking the kinds of questions, asking about whether there's transportation to your neighborhood, what the enrichment programs look like, what the athletics programs look like, and you can start to learn a little bit more about the school through the website. Then from there, I'd recommend filling out a school's inquiry form. Most schools have those really easy to find on their website, and it will just ask you for some contact information. And that really what it does is just add you to the school's database. So you'll get updates about events going on, reminders on application deadlines, those kinds of things, so you can learn more about the school, hopefully in person. Because that's the other thing I think is great at this stage of exploration, is starting to just tour. And most schools have either a virtual tour, a lot of us are doing tours back in person, and I think those are great because anytime you can walk around on a campus or virtually walk around on a campus, you can really get a feel for the school, what the kids are like, what the atmosphere is like in the classroom. And I think that helps you start to narrow down your list to the places that you have that gut feeling about, that you can really imagine your child thriving in that classroom, or you can imagine your family growing up on that campus. And so those are ways you can kind of start wide of looking at all different kinds of schools, and then start to narrow down what the schools that you'd like to apply are. And Nancy will kind of cover what that process looks like.
Okay, so here we are. It's the end of the calendar year, and we're very much in the admission process. And so if you are looking for next year, please don't hesitate to take the steps as Brad started to outline about looking into via inquiry what tours are left, what events are left, so that you can certainly get on campuses as much as you can to get a feel for schools. Because what we know is that every school has a culture and ethos of its own. And that's how you get that visceral kind of feeling that Brad was speaking of, where it just feels like, you know what, this is the right community for us. And that might not be just one school. You might have that feeling about a few schools, but it's wonderful to do that due diligence and put your applications in where you feel it most makes sense for you and your family. And choosing a school is really a family choice. It isn't just about your child, but it's about your whole family. Where are you going to feel comfortable? Where are you going to feel like these are your people and this is your community? And you're going to essentially see school as a second home. So you put that application in, and meanwhile, you're adhering to all the opportunities that the schools are inviting you to participate in, finding teacher recommendations, sending transcripts. LAIS, as we indicate on this slide, does have some common forms, which makes that easy. So if you're applying to a few schools, you only have to fill it out, or the person who is teacher or whomever administrator that's filling out the recommendation might not have to do it more than one time, as those forms can apply to a number of schools. If you get a chance to get on campus for an interview, terrific. If it's on Zoom, also great, just to get that time to talk with the admission office and the representatives, to come on campus, have your child have a visit, whatever the school offers. It's great to have those moments to kind of again feel like you're getting to know that future location that your child is going to grow up in. Standardized testing varies from school to school in terms of what's required. And so again, it's looking at those requirements as schools are laying them out for you. And if you are looking for financial assistance, then following through with the forms and the financial assistance office. So then on March 10th in green, that's the big date. And all the schools send out decisions at the same time. I think it's 5 o'clock on, right? 5 o'clock on that date. We're as nervous as you are, don't you worry. Trying to, make sure that everything gets out to you and that we communicate with you. If we're able to offer a spot for your child and you would like to take that spot, all admission directors would love to hear from you as soon as possible. If you are fortunate enough to be a family that your child is accepted at multiple schools, it's also nice to let those schools that you are not going to accept the spot know, so that they can offer it to someone else. Wait lists vary from school to school. And usually we try to send waitlist letters when there's a good chance that we might be able to get to that wait list. So the school might ask you to respond and say, do you want to stay on the wait list? Is this something that you're interested in doing? And again, it's good to respond. So there's 1 week of turnaround, and those who have received accepts need to let the schools know on that return date. And then at that point, or sometimes even before that, we're able to start to look at the wait list and see if we can offer spaces. So don't get discouraged, because often we do get to our wait lists, and sometimes we get to invite a lot of families into the schools based on the wait list. If the school says that they don't have a spot for you, then, start looking at another option. Some schools, and it mentions this also with rolling admission, some schools also have admission that extends beyond this March time, and they may also open up some spots and allow enrollment going into April, perhaps May, and even later. So my, I think, recommendation is to just keep in touch with us, with the admission offices, and to don't be afraid to email, call. We're here for you. We see this process as a partnership. We want you, whichever schools, we want you in independent schools. So wherever you land, we're happy. We're happy that you're going to kind of keep us going, and that we're going to be able to provide for you a wonderful opportunity for your family. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're going to do a Q&A now, and we would love to answer your questions. The final thing that I will say regarding the process is trust the admissions process. As Nancy said, admissions officers are here to help you, to support you through, to handhold you through the process, but release the outcome. Because when March 10th comes around, if your child is meant to attend an Adventist school, that school will know, and then you'll know. And you just need to trust the process. Your gut feeling as a parent is gold. When you come on a campus somewhere and you go, oh, I can totally see my child here, then go home that night and fill out that application and submit it right away. Don't wait. It indicates that you really got what the school was about, what the mission, what the programs were, what everything resonated with you. So, all right. We did get a few questions initially with the registration. And so can you talk about applying from out of state? Applying from out of state is basically the same thing as applying from in-state. Except that you do most of it online. We have, at my school, we have people applying from other countries even, and or from out of state, and we treat them the same way that we would treat families that are local. Just follow all the progress checklists on the application portals for each of the schools. Let the admissions officer, if you are unable to travel or to come and see the school in person, so that they understand why, and so on and so forth. But that's pretty much it. The other question is, how do we sign up for a wait list? Brad, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so normally what happens is during that admission process, schools will offer admission to enough students to fill the seats that they have open in a given grade level. And once that is full, sometimes there are kids that maybe the school feels like a great fit, but they just don't have a space for in a certain grade level. So that's what that word wait list or wait pool means, is kids that the school thinks would be a great addition to the school, but they're just waiting for a space to open up for that family. And sometimes that lasts into the summer. And every once in a while we'll have a family over the summer that decides they need to move away, or jobs change or plans change. And so that's when a school would go to that wait list or wait pool and say, we thought you would be great here. We finally have room for you, and offer you that spot. So sometimes if you're applying maybe after deadlines have passed, or you make the decision a little later in the process to apply, school might tell you you can apply, but it would just be for a wait list spot, or a chance if there were a spot that opened up. And so that would be just something you would communicate with the school about your interest, knowing that it's not a guaranteed possibility, but that you would have a chance to, if a space opened up for your child.
Unlike the New York Consortium, where sometimes you have to get on a wait list years ahead, especially for kindergarten, the Los Angeles market is not like that at all. The way to get on a wait list is to apply for the school, and hopefully your child gets in. If they don't get in, they may be on a wait list or wait pool. A wait pool is generally not ranked, and when a spot opens up, the admissions committee looks at who is on the wait pool, and then pulls a name out of that wait pool. But you do have to let the schools know if you're interested in staying on the wait pool. So any other questions? Oh, there's one in the Q&A. Let me look at that. Okay, there's a couple. Great. My son is in 7th grade and he will apply for high school. When do you recommend we start the process and touring the school? All right. So generally, do you want to take that one, Nancy?
Sure. Though I do elementary admission, the year that you're applying will be the year before your child is going to begin that grade. So if you have a 7th grader, a school might allow you in this year to view the school and to get to know the school, although it is early. So if the school begins high school in 9th grade, then you're going to make that application in 8th grade. And that cycle, that year of admission when your child's in 8th grade, is the appropriate time for you to really get to know the schools and to make those applications.
Exactly. We at Berkeley Hall, we end in 8th grade. And so we started talking with our 7th grade families in the spring of this year. We had meetings with them, and then we had meetings again with them in the fall, and we are hand-holding them through the process of applying to 9th grade. And it's working out beautifully. Are there a maximum number of students from a given preschool accepted to an independent school? Brad?
I don't know if I can speak for everyone, but for us, no. And I think generally, no. I think what we're looking for is the composition of the class as a whole, wanting to be a balanced, diverse group of kids from different backgrounds, different neighborhoods, all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say that there's that diversity is an important piece, but I don't think anyone's counting and saying, oh, we can't have another kid from X preschool because we already have so many. It's more really about the kid and what they would add to the school where they're applying. So I think it's a long way of saying, no, I wouldn't worry about that.
Same for us. We don't take a maximum number from a specific preschool. On the contrary, we have kindergartners applying from, I don't know, probably 30 or 40 different preschools every year. And it works out amazingly. What about you, Nancy?
We too have applicants from many, many different preschools. And I think that, it's really about individual children and individual families. And so, there's no one school that we would favor. There's no one type of school that we would favor. We recognize that parents have chosen preschools for a variety of reasons that fit for their family. So we're not about, whether it's a play-based kind of preschool or whether the school is teaching phonemic awareness and beginning skills with handwriting. Those are not measurable ways that we see kids as being really ready for kindergarten. So, we don't ever worry about feeling like you have to prep your child for a kindergarten assessment, because it is really not about those things.
That's right. Any other questions? Feel free to type them in the chat, in the Q&A if you have more. We could talk about kindergarten readiness very briefly. Do you
I
want
had
to?
a question that someone asked me today that I would love to have y'all's answers
Go for
to.
it.
They're asking me, when they go to interview at a school, they were talking about feeling some pressure to, present to their family in a certain way. I don't know. Would you guys maybe talk for a couple of seconds about just what you're looking for in those parent interviews and how families might approach that?
Be yourself. You don't have to impress us. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been interviewing parents for a long time. We've been seeing kids for a long time. Our teachers and administrators and admissions officers, a lot of us are parents as well, or have had kids or nephews or nieces in schools. And just be yourself. We just want to get to know you as parents, and we want to learn about your hopes and dreams for your children. And so I would just say be yourself. What about you, Nancy?
I agree. I think the conversations that we have with families is certainly a two-way street, where we're hoping you'll share a little bit about your own backgrounds. This is a time as you look at kindergarten opportunities for your child, it's hard not to reflect back on your own educational experience and what are the things that mattered to you? How did you feel as a student? Are there things that you want to replicate for your child? Do you want them to have something different? So it gives you a chance to really, kind of think about where you're headed. What are those goals and priorities, as we say, that you'll have. And the conversation just kind of takes its own course. And when we see kids, we tend to see kids in groups so that we can have a chance to make them feel comfortable and to have a chance for them to kind of be in a mock kindergarten classroom setting, not because we're looking at their academic skill level acquisition, but more about their receptivity to the kinds of teaching experiences that they're going to have in kindergarten. And so it's the readiness that we're looking for. Are they going to be ready and receptive to the kind of programs that we offer? We make it fun and we make it hopefully welcoming to parents and to kids, and we look forward to your participation.
Absolutely. Brad, how would you answer that question?
Well, you don't need to be nervous. I think we've all seen families come in and they're sweating bullets, or one of the parents is squeezing the other's hand so tight it looks like it's gonna explode. But it really is. It's not about putting on a false version of yourself or a facade in front of your family. We just want to get to know you, and it's not like we're sitting there judging you or scoring you on what you wore or anything like that. It really is just about getting to know your values as a family and what you're hoping for your kid. And those are the most fun conversations you can have.
Another question that was given to me recently is how many recommendations do you need? Is it important to have recommendations from celebrities or from important people? And the answer to that is nope, not at all. I do keep occasionally, I think I have a letter from Brad Pitt in my file folder just because it was funny. But no, we really don't care. It's not who you know that's important, it's who your child is and who your family is. And that's the most important thing. We just want to know who you are as parents and what your hopes and dreams are for your child. And hopefully we make a match. So no, I also had a set of parents who were in the entertainment business offered to have Barbara Walters write a letter of recommendation for their child. And I asked, does Barbara Walters know your child really well? Oh, no, but she knows us. I'm like, no. The recommendations that are required as part of the process are enough. The people that see your child every day, the teacher and the administrator, it's all we care about. We don't need additional recommendations. Any other thoughts on that, Nancy and Brad?
No, just, we'd have teacher recommendation. That's it. That's
Agreed.
it.
Agreed. Yeah.
Same. I'm trying to think. There's no other questions. We want to be able to answer anything that may be burning, or do you have, Nancy, what would be a typical question that a parent may ask you?
I think the more parents are getting to know schools and reading websites and looking at philosophy statements and mission statements and all the many things that all of our schools offer, be it the arts, social emotional growth and development, the scope and sequence of a terrific curriculum, schools are more alike than they are different. And you can get such great educational experience and total whole child experience, if you will, at any of our schools. And so really, I think the question that families ask is, how is your school unique, or how is your school different? And those are sort of the subtleties of the due diligence of going to schools and having a chance to get a feel for yourself. Another piece of the picture I think that's really significant is talking to parents who are currently part of the community of the schools that you're looking at. They're great ambassadors, and they can answer questions for you that we can't. Why did you choose this school, or how has your experience been? There's no perfect place. There's no perfect school. And we want you to know the authentic, real feel and picture of what a school's about. We don't want you to come to the school and say, oh my gosh, this isn't what I expected. So the more we can offer real opportunities, and the more you can talk with other families is, I think, kind of the best way to get yourself educated about schools and to feel that you've gotten to know as best you can what a community feels like.
Thank you, Nancy. We have 2 more questions. Is there an annual fair where you can meet administrators from various schools at one time? Brad, do you want to take that one?
You can answer that one, Natalie.
Pre-pandemic, we used to have an annual, 2 annual fairs. We would do one in the fall and we would do one in the spring. And then the pandemic happened and we went to these lovely webinars. And because this year we had no idea what was going to happen with the pandemic, we decided just to continue doing webinars online for now. And it's all very practical because you don't have to fight traffic to get to a school either on the west side or up on Mulholland or in the valley. It's just a little easier. So at some point in time, our consortium hopes to be able to do school fairs back live in person again. But meanwhile, we are doing these online. The other question is, thank you for such a thorough discussion. You're welcome. How would you suggest we prep our preschoolers for their assessments?
We hope you don't prep them. I think the best news for kids as they come in for what generally most of us call play dates, if the kids come in for group experiences, is that you prep them by helping them to know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so, often if we can explain to parents that, your child probably won't know any other children here, because we probably, we'd like to set up an experience where kids are coming from a variety of schools so that they're not distracted by their friends necessarily. And then to just tell them what's going to happen about, maybe the parents are going to be in the classroom with the children for a while, but then there's going to be a time when the parents are going to go out and have a conversation separate. Or is there going to be a circle time? Is there going to be an outside play time? The more you can learn from the admission director of the schools that you're applying to, how that time is going to be spent, and then share it with your child. And that's it. Just so, kids feel most comfortable when they know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
The other thing I would say is, please don't dress them in their Sunday best.
No.
When you come for the play date, they don't need to wear the most beautiful dresses or the cutest little suits. Just wear them in regular school clothes. We in our at our play dates for our kindergarten play dates, we have the children play outside. We really enjoy having them play inside, and they're wearing their best shoes that they can't put in the sand, or their best dresses for little girls. It makes it harder for them. So we really want them to have a really good experience, as Nancy said, and we want them to be comfortable in their clothes. And that's pretty much it. Brad, what do you have to say about this one?
Yeah, you don't need to rehearse anything. I'll never forget asking a kid, we had gotten settled in the play date, and I was like, oh, how's your day going? And he was like, I didn't practice this question. It's like, you just want them to be authentic. You don't need to rehearse or anything beforehand. It'll be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions for us? We are here for another 12 minutes. If you have any specific questions, we would love to answer any of them. Trying to think of other questions that parents have asked that were so interesting. Find out about the communities. Find out about the parent communities, whether they have a parent association, what events, all school events they have at the school, how you can volunteer, how you can participate in the life of the school. Find out if when you meet with the admissions directors and you, or the admissions officers, and you have your parent interviews, or you go to a panel and come to the school with questions. To be honest with you, I started at my current school as a mom, and I volunteered right away, and I was a super volunteer, even though I worked full time at another job. And here I am so many years later. It's pretty amazing how you can get involved. I absolutely love the fact that at all our schools, parents can get involved in a variety of things. Is it best to apply for preschool or wait and apply for kindergarten? It depends on the school. This is another question that came through. Nancy, you have a preschool, or you don't have a preschool?
Do not. We do not.
Is it best to apply for preschool? Do you mind, Tamika, do you mind explaining what you're talking about? Because we do have, some of our schools have preschools attached to them and some don't. And so it's really up to you, and it's up to how many spaces there are. But some schools, each school has their own entry points. And so to find out more about that by reading the school's websites or understanding, how many, the way to get into the school, I think would be my my response to that one. So, what does it mean when it says it's optional to have the ISEE? Is it good for them to have the test? That's a fabulous question. Thank you so much. Brad, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I know. I think schools, each school kind of has their own philosophy around standardized testing, and some schools say that for anyone that doesn't know, the ISEE is a standardized assessment that kids take when they're applying, usually to middle and high schools, and it's kind of like a high school version of the SAT or something if you're applying for college. And the some schools will say that they don't look at those scores. Some schools will say they require those scores, and some will say it's optional, which I think is where this question is coming from. Does that mean we should or we shouldn't? I think in those situations, the schools look at it as an extra piece of data, but not something that they are going to necessarily base their decision off of. So if one of the schools you're applying to requires it and you've already taken it, then you're welcome to share those with schools that say it's optional. But if you're only looking at schools where it's optional or not required, then I don't think it's going to hurt your chances at a school not having it. I think by the school saying it's optional, they're saying they're not going to hold it against you in any way if you don't have the ISEE score.
Same. Nancy, same thing with you?
I think so. I mean, there was a time, I think, when at least we started with sixth grade and certainly into middle and high school, the IC test was a required piece of admission. pre-pandemic. Then, everybody kind of did away with it, but there's a way in which schools want to make sure, and that's being good advocates for kids, that your child, no matter what grade they might be matriculating into, that they're going to be able to do well, that they're going to succeed in the grade level that they're coming into. So the school will perhaps give an assessment of their own, so that they can have a look at, sometimes, for example, if we have sixth grade applicants, we would be giving the assessment in math and reading to those applicants to see where they are. It doesn't mean they have to score perfectly or the highest of scores, because we've given that same assessment to our own students so that we can make sure that those students would be well part of the current class, and that they would feel good, they would be doing well, and they would move in successfully.
Yeah. The ISCE is the Independent School Entrance Exam. And as Nancy said, most of the schools required it pre-pandemic. And then with the pandemic and issues of equity as well, a lot of schools have dropped it. As parents, I know what it feels like. If it says optional, of course you're going to want to have your child take it. I'd recommend you don't if it's optional. And the other thing is, if you do decide to have your child take it, it's a 2.5-hour test for the lower level, and then for the upper level, it's a little bit longer than that. It's a big deal, and it's hard. And so, if you do have your child take it, do not put the school to receive the ISE as soon as your child has taken it. Wait until you see the scores, and then decide whether or not you want to share those scores with the schools where your child is applying. Be strategic about it. When your child is in high school and they're taking the SAT or the ACT, you will be able to do the same thing, which is pick, after your child has taken the test and you've seen the results, which school, which college and universities you send it to. So the ISE is very similar. But if it says optional, unless you really want your child to study for a fairly hard entrance exam and then spend almost 3 hours on a Saturday morning or during the week to take it, if it's optional, we don't recommend. I mean, we've not recommended to our 8th graders to take it this year if it says optional. So any other questions? We're getting to the top of the hour. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. We're very happy to answer any other questions. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodnight to all of you. Thank you so much for taking part in this webinar. It is recorded and will be up on our website, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. I want to really encourage you to apply to independent schools and look into the schools and see if you get that gut feeling of, oh, wow, I totally see not only your child there, but yourself as a family. These schools are really, truly amazing schools, and you feel part of something bigger than yourself. And it's pretty, I love it. And I can't say enough about it. Nancy, you want to say something to say goodbye?
Agreed. I mean, I think we all not only feel so attached to our own schools, but also the support and the opportunities as a consortium to work together in the best interest of independent schools for the whole city and for all families. We take a lot of pride in the accomplishments of our schools and of our students, and we really do center students in the decisions that we make, and feel that kids leaving independent schools not only go into the world as good people who we hope are going to go out and do good things, but also have a voice and know how to advocate for themselves, and have really such a great next level opportunity. Most of them come back and say college is easy because they are so used to a high level of instruction and learning, and they love learning, and they love taking risks, and they love just continuing to recognize how lucky they are to have been part of such a great learning environment. And I will tell you that I think one of the nicest aspects of independent school life is that the friends that they make and the friends that you make as a family are often friends for life, you know, that you will have as we all said, kind of a second home and a feeling of attachment to the families that you get to know in schools. So we hope that we'll get to see you on our campuses, and that eventually, whether it's this year or in the near future, that you'll join us in the independent school world. And thanks again for being here.
Brad?
The last thing I would say is that, you know, we are all admission directors, and people that work at admissions and schools are all humans. We are people that want to help you and that love kids and really believe in what we're doing. And so don't ever be afraid if you have a question to reach out. You're not going to be judged, and there's even on the screen a ton of experience and people that are more than happy to help you with any question or concern as you consider these schools.
Again, thank you so much for attending this webinar. We wish you the happiest of holiday season. I can't believe it's December. And we wish you a very happy new year. And we hope you find the right independent school for your child. Have a lovely evening. And thank you again.
Thanks, everybody.